You're welcome back to Thursday's football show. Nathan with you this evening. So Arsenal 2-1 winners against Wolves in the Premier League. A last minute goal from Alexandre Lacazette winning it for Arsenal. And it's still Rangers 2, Borussia Dortmund 2 in the Europa League. Rangers leading 6-4 on aggregate. We want to touch quickly then on, well, what has dominated the headlines around the world today. Russia's invasion of Ukraine and what it is all going to mean from a footballing and sporting point of view. Nick Harris from Sporting Intelligence is on the line. Good evening, Nick.
Good evening, how are you?
I was following one of your threads on Twitter earlier around the tangled web that is football and Russia, and there are so many different aspects to this, from the Champions League hosting, the Champions League being held in St. Petersburg this year, Gazprom's sponsorship of the Champions League, what happened with Russia being awarded the 2018 World Cup finals, the Infantino and Seferin's personal relationships with Vladimir Putin. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens over the next few days, and I wonder if you think any sporting sanctions will have any impact at all on what's going on.
Yeah, I think this is obviously multifaceted. So obviously this is a huge event, and so it's going to impact sports, as it's going to impact the economy and politics and all other areas of life. I mean, the most high-profile, most immediate thing that will happen is tomorrow we'll get official confirmation that UEFA have stripped St. Petersburg in Russia of the hosting rights to the Champions League final of 2022. I think there's a 99.9% chance that will be confirmed on Friday, that Russia will be stripped of those hosting rights, and then there'll be the question about where they will go instead. But of course, there's all sorts of other football issues around this, like what are FIFA going to do about it? What are UEFA going to do about it? What are the implications long-term and more medium-term for World Cup qualifiers involving Russia and Russian teams in club competitions? There's all sorts of implications here.
And from reading your work through the years, when there have been issues around Russia previously, never to this extent, but when issues have cropped up, sport has gone out of its way to find solutions to allow Russia to always compete.
Yeah, I mean, the big main example would obviously be the 2018 World Cup in Russia, which was voted in arguably the most corrupt voting process in the history of world sport in 2010, which sent the 2018 World Cup to Russia and the 2022 World Cup to Qatar, despite the fact that there was ample evidence of Russia and the Russian government and the Russian sports ministry and the Russian FA being implicated in the doping scandal, the state-sponsored doping scandal. FIFA really turned a blind eye to that, and FIFA president at the time of the World Cup, Gianni Infantino, effectively developed a really intense bromance with Vladimir Putin, and despite significant issues over whether they were fit to host the World Cup, they were allowed to host the World Cup. And I mean, there's all sorts of massively problematic issues with the IOC and Russia, supposedly banned from the Olympics since 2016, but have sent delegations of hundreds of athletes to the Summer and Winter Olympics ever since they've supposedly been banned. And it's all a bit meaningless, really, these so-called sanctions.
We saw Gianni Infantino squirming somewhat under questioning from Rob Harris earlier, and a quick Google of Infantino and Putin shows up hundreds of photographs of the two of them together, and a very cordial relationship. How close, from your understanding, how close are Infantino and Putin?
Well, I mean, the thing about Rob's question today, who works for the Associated Press, asked FIFA President Infantino if he would retain the Order of Friendship Medal given to him by Vladimir Putin, and he didn't answer the question. He squirmed and he waffled for about 2 minutes without answering the question. The fact is, these sporting leaders like Infantino at FIFA and Thomas Bach at the IOC are enthralled to Vladimir Putin. They don't want to offend him. They'll do everything to appease him. He didn't answer the question. Of course, it's obvious that Infantino had a close relationship with Putin in the run-up to the World Cup and retains that relationship now. Otherwise, he would have answered that question honestly. I think that speaks for itself.
What's happened today is obviously unprecedented in modern times in Europe. Do you expect an unprecedented response? Is there a possibility that UEFA throw Zenit St. Petersburg out of the Europa League, that FIFA throw Russia out of the World Cup playoffs. Are these reasonable things to expect FIFA and UEFA to do?
I would not expect either of those things to happen. I definitely expect Russia to be stripped of the hosting rights for the Champions League final in St. Petersburg. In terms of sanctioning, the national team, I just don't think FIFA will go there in terms of trying to chuck Russia out of World Cup qualifying, or individual teams out of European competition vis-a-vis UEFA. I just don't see that happening. But who knows? I mean, we are in unprecedented times. If we take precedent, have these governing bodies got the backbone to act decisively against people who, frankly, they've been in bed with for years, financially and otherwise? Obviously, Gazprom and UEFA have got immensely, lucrative relationship. No, I have got no confidence of them taking any meaningful action apart from stripping St. Petersburg of hosting rights for the Champions League.
All right, Nick Harris from Sporting Intelligence. Thanks a lot for taking the call.
Cheers, thanks.
We will, of course, have lots more on that over the coming days, and on OTB AM from 7:30 tomorrow morning with Adrian and Owen.